Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dean's Chat, where we discuss all things podiatric medicine. My name is Dr. Jeffrey Jensen. I'm the Dean at the Arizona College of Podiatric Medicine and the host for the Dean's Chat podcast. Once again, I'm with my co-host, Dr. Joanna Ritchie. Hi, Joe.
Hey Jeff, how you doing?
I am doing fabulous. What's new in the world?
Oh, just, living the dream. It's a holiday today. We're excited to celebrate Martin Luther King Day. It was very cute to hear my kids tell me who Martin Luther King was, and I think our schools do a great job. Um, and so the morning was spent doing all things family. It was lovely.
Fantastic. Well, we have a phenomenal guest joining us today. I'd like to welcome Maryellen Brucato to Dean's Chat. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're excited to have you. When I saw your name on our schedule, I thought, geez, this is great. I get to put a face to the name. So thank you so much for joining us. Mary Ellen, we're very informal on Dean's Chat. We're already on first name basis. Is that all right with you, Mary Ellen, Joe, and Jeff?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maryellen, for coming on. I've been so excited about this opportunity to chat with you and share your story with our audience. It's been a pleasure to get to know you through some of the AO events over the last year or so, maybe a year. But just to do a brief bio, and we'll go through a couple things as we have our discussion today. Currently, you're the owner of Brucato Foot and Ankle Surgery in Clifton, New Jersey. You're board certified by the American Board of Foot and Ankle Surgeons in both rear foot and forefoot surgery. You did your undergraduate degree with St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia and got your Bachelors of Science in biology and a minor in Spanish, which I think is so interesting. And then you went on to Temple University to complete your Doctorate of Podiatric Medical degree and went to the Morristown Medical Center residency, 3-year surgical residency training program. What I'd love to start our discussion with is after residency, you went on to practice with New Jersey Foot and Ankle Centers in Oradell, New Jersey. And tell us a little bit about that experience and what that kind of translated for you.
Sure. So I always had an idea that I wanted to be in private practice because when I was a college student and I was really figuring out that I wanted to go into podiatry, I shadowed a lot of podiatrists in my hometown, and they were all like super cool and laid back, and they'd go surfing during the lunch break. And that's kind of how I always saw myself. I was like, oh, I'm going to come back and graduate and I'm going to do this. So when I started looking for jobs, I interviewed in the like Jersey Shore area where I'm from. And more opportunities really presented in the area of North Jersey where I trained, kind of right in the same area. And that's how I found my first job. And it was exactly what I was looking for, to work in private practice. I really just wanted to come in, see the patients, do the surgery, do my research, all that other extracurricular stuff that I love to do. And, and that was what I was looking for. And what I came into was a really busy practice that had one guy, he was the owner. And when I joined, he said, I'm never, you'll never be an owner here. And I was like, I'm fine with that. I don't ever want to own anything. I don't want, like, that's not why I got into this, which is really hilarious because, now I'm owning, multi-doctor practice and things. But so I started working there, and, I was there every day. I was seeing patients. I was doing a ton of surgery, and the owner wasn't around as much as I was. I was working, every Saturday. I was working, till 7 p.m. at night, a lot of nights and things like that. So slowly as time went on, I figured out ways to make the office more efficient. I transitioned the office from paper charts to EMR. I don't know if you guys were around during that time, but that was always that was always a fun project of how are we going to like start seeing the patients with this new EMR on day one. And I kind of took over that project, and slowly but surely I was managing all the employees, and they would all come to me for problems. And, it wasn't like anything where I was consciously doing it. Like, I'm going to go in and take over this office. It was just totally natural for me because I'm somewhat of a natural leader. I'm the oldest child and things like that with 2 younger brothers. And I'm the type of person, if no one around is going to step in, then I'm going to do it. And, we'll talk about that, how that theme kind of lays out my whole career. But so anyway, so I winded up kind of really taking over and running everything. And then I convinced my boss to give me the title of medical director. I'm like, hey, I'm really, really running things here. Like, I should get this title. And he's like, sure, no problem. And then we hire another doctor and then another doctor, and we get up to 5 doctors working in this one single location practice. And it was a huge office and things, and we were doing really well. And then the owner had a major stroke, and he was in like the hospital for months. He was in rehab for months, so he couldn't do anything. So all of a sudden, it was like, okay, well, is his like family going to come in and run the practice? Or I'm already running things except for the finance part of it. Like I might as well just keep doing it. So I make sure I have a job. And we had 30 employees at this point. And I was like, all these people are relying on me to keep their jobs and keep this place going, and I'm going to do it. And so that's kind of how I became the CEO. He signed paperwork to make me CEO. And then he kind of wound up making me like partial owner. I paid for part of the practice into the practice, so become partial owner and things like that. And then, the guy started coming around like a year later and, making all these ridiculous claims and saying, I wasn't an owner and, I didn't sign all this paperwork, just kind of all this stuff. And, I was like, dude, like, what's going on? You're saying all these things, like, let's sit down and have a conversation. And he kept putting it off and putting me off but going around and tell everyone I didn't own the practice and things like that. And then long story short, we wind up going into a legal battle to the point where, I hired a lawyer that sent him a letter saying like, hey, let's get our lawyers together and sit down and have a conversation about this. And the same day he received that letter, he hired a locksmith and changed all the locks in my office and locked me out of the office. So it was like literally out of like a soap opera or something. It was like really dramatic, and like, the employees are like calling me crying and all these things. And so in the meantime, I was in the middle of opening up this new satellite office for us in Clifton. So I was there when this all happened. So I was like, well, this is going to be my new office. And through a legal settlement, I got to keep the new office and he got to keep the old office. And I was like, I have to open this practice and I have to keep it going, because where are my patients going to turn? Where am I going to practice? Like, yeah, I guess I could go like get a job and work for someone else. But all my friends and like my mentor was like, that's not you. Like, you're not a 9 to 5 like type of surgeon. That's just like, you're never going to be happy doing that. And so kind of everyone around me, my family and my friends, they all supported me. And I was like, you know what, I got to do this. So so I just was in that Clifton office every day, and I started out with like a couple patients and then a couple more and a couple more. And I sat there and I used the extra time to market and to reach out to people and try to build a practice. I also like sat there and learned how to do Google ads and how to like write code and things. It was a really crazy time, but we had a really rough go, and then COVID happened, and then we managed to stay open during COVID. And, after COVID kind of wound down, I hired who is now my partner, Dr. Parikh, and he was my associate that I took on. And once I hired him, he just took over so many responsibilities from him, and he gave me such an increase in quality of life and less worry, because he's an amazing doctor and he really cared about the practice like it was his own. And so, in a year or two, I was like, dude, like, let's make you partner. I don't want you to ever leave. So that was like a year or two ago, and we've hired more doctors, and we're just trying to build and expand it, and it's been a very like positive experience.
Wow. I had no idea any of the backstory on that. And, you know, it it's so hard to go through some of those extreme challenges that you face. And I'm not sure where in that transition. I know you've been incredibly involved with the American College of Foot and Ankle Surgeons, been the chair of the ACFAS Practice Management Committee, and who better to have real world life skills for practice management, both before and then during, and then all of the things that you had to, from a grassroots effort, build a practice. I commend you on that. What are some of, and we will link to some of the ACFAS podcasts that you have done that talk about practice management, because that's really not where we want to devote most of the attention today, because there's too many other things that I want to talk to you about. But just in kind of a quick blurb, if you were to give someone some advice about starting a practice, what are some maybe top five, top three pieces of advice you might give?
Yeah, I mean, I think the hardest part of it is there's this awful time period from the day you decide that you're going to open up and start your own practice till the day you become solvent, meaning you're making enough money to cover your rent and your expenses. And this gap of time is a lot of people can't tolerate it, to be honest with you. It's very uncomfortable. It's very, and we're as doctors and surgeons, we're type A people, right? We want to know, where's our next paycheck coming from? What's the future going to look like? What's it going to look like? And that uncertainty of that time is very stressful. And what I always tell people about when they open up their practice, I'm like, look, just prepare yourself for this time period. It's going to be very uncomfortable. And your job is to be an expert at being uncomfortable. And if you can master being uncomfortable, you're going to be an amazing business owner and you're going to make it to be successful. And I think that's giving people that advice has been helpful. And I think that, like, for me, my experience was, when you first sign up for insurance panels, they usually pay you paper check first, and then you can sign up for EFTs or electronic transfers. And so I would go to the mailbox every day to check to see if we got any checks from the insurance companies every day. And after you go every day to the mailbox for 30 days and 60 days and you're not getting any money, it's incredibly disheartening. And after a while, you don't want to go to check the mailbox. So I always tell everyone, just keep checking the mailbox. Just keep checking it, because that one day you're going to get that first payment from the insurance, and it's the best feeling in the world because you did it yourself. You had help, but it was all you. It wasn't your boss. It wasn't this company you work for. It's all you. And it's a way better payoff than having someone just give you a paycheck. So I think that's like my number one advice I tell everyone. Another one is, when you market, you want to do marketing that you actually want to do. So what's your passion? Is it, jujitsu? Like, okay, so go market to jujitsu places. Is your passion doing volunteer work? Go do that. You have to do things that you're interested in. If you support the police, like, the police departments are very close to my heart. And we do a lot of work with them, but I want to do the work with them. And so, I think if you're a person that, doesn't get along with the cops or something like that, like, maybe don't do that, because if you're doing marketing that you already enjoy, if you don't get any patients from it, you don't really lose anything. And people can tell when you're faking it. People know. And I think that the third thing is that patients keep coming back to you because you go above and beyond in whatever capacity it is. Maybe, you're fixing like incredibly deformed foot and you're going above and beyond and giving a patient a straight foot that they can ambulate on. Or maybe it's like, that I can't get my home care nurse to come. They're not answering my phone. So, and, I'll be like, all right, we're going to get them on the phone right now. Don't leave until we talk to them. So if you go above and beyond for your patients, that's the type of things that will get you patient referrals, because they're going to go home and tell their friends like, oh, you won't believe what my foot doctor did for me. It was incredible. So I think that would be my top three. I mean, I could talk about this forever. Like, let's just start with those three things. But, I think those are all important.
Jeff, your thoughts?
Well, my first thought was this may be worthy of 2 episodes, Joe. We talk. Your history is tremendous. I've got a whole list of questions, but I'm fascinated with your story because it kind of reminds me that entrepreneurship and being a doctor are different animals, as you stated. And, favors the bold, or what is it? Fortune favors the bold, and risk tolerance is so important. And you're not just born with that. And Joe, you and I were talking recently about entrepreneurship and the potential for like dual degrees of business and podiatry or any medical education. I just find it to be fascinating because it's a personality type and it's a risk tolerance issue. I can relate a little bit to the mailbox story, Joe. When I used to write grants, I used to go to the mailbox every day waiting for an NIH response, trying to get my score to get funded. So I do relate to that, and I admire your story. But the challenges we have with patient care and business, it's not an 8-hour job, either of them. So when you're taking on both, what were your hours like, Maryellen? Just to kind of paint a picture of what it's like to put this all together, because not just to mention the stress, but the time requirement and effort required is immense.
Yeah, I mean, when I first opened, I was there at the office like 8 a.m. and I probably didn't get home till 6 or 7, sometimes 8, like every day. Sometimes and even still, like if we're setting up a new office, I would see patients all day in my Clifton office. Then at night, I would go to my Hackensack office and assemble furniture. And I worked every Saturday. I worked every Saturday for 7 years. Then when I hired Dr. Parikh, I worked every other Saturday. Then when I hired an associate, and I still work Saturdays. So, a lot of people, don't subscribe to that type of hustle. But you just need it. Like a lot of people are like, oh, how are you so successful? This and that. But it's really the hustle. If you put the work, it's a simple formula in my mind. If you put the work in, you're gonna get the reward out. It's not some, magical secret, trick that everyone that's successful is like, keeping to themselves. It's very obvious.
So, sorry, Joe, may I ask one more question? So, Mary Ellen, what's your concept of work-life balance? Is that something that is a delayed gratification experience, or is work-life balance such that as a business owner, practice owner, you can leave when you need to and schedule your life accordingly so you can be at your kids' events and things? I mean, what's your definition of work-life balance? Because, setting finances aside, that's a challenge. And, many of our students are looking for work-life balance. And Joe and I in interviews say things like, yeah, work-life balance, and not the next 7 years and probably not the first few years of practice.
Yeah, that's so funny that you guys say that because I hear that a lot from the residents coming out when they're looking for a job. They're looking for work-life balance, or even I've heard students interviewing for residency programs looking for work-life balance, which, when we all trained as residents, did that exist? No, your life was your work for 3 years or however long you train. So I think in private practice and for me, like, I've heard people say, oh, work-life balance, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. But in my mind, it absolutely exists. And you just have to find a way to make it all work. And, every problem is figure outable, right? So for myself now, so back then when I was setting up my practice, I wasn't home a lot. So I was building my practice and the idea was I'm going to put the time in now when my son is a baby. So when he's older, I can be with him more and be there for him, whatever. And now I'm so lucky that I'm at the point the last couple of years where I've worked it out where I can make my schedule. If, I'm the president of the PTA. So I got to go to school a lot, so I just make my schedule around that. I go to like every single like practice my son has. I go to every single game my son has. But that's a luxury of owning your own practice. You don't have to answer to anyone. You don't have to answer to a boss. You have to answer to yourself. But in my mind, my son is 7 years old. How many more years do I have left with him? Really? I have like 10 years left. That's it. So if financially it's hurting me now, which I don't feel that it is, but say it was in some aspect, I think my plan is, and always has been like, well, when he goes away to college or when he's in high school and he's busy all the time, like I'll pick up more hours in my office, if I need to. So it's like this constant, I think it's this constant adjustment that you have to do. And like, for me, like my son's father, he works a lot in the like winter. And so I have to like take him more days because we're divorced. And so we have 50-50 custody, but I have to pick more hours and things like that. And I'm so lucky I have the freedom to do it because I get all this extra time with him and things like that. But on the other hand, like in September, I was traveling every weekend for work. One weekend was AO, one weekend was ACFAS scopes, one weekend was a conference for the ACFAS tri-state region. And another weekend I had to work in my office. So I was like gone like all September, and his father was able to take him a little bit more, and now I'm able to take him a little more. So it's like some months you're going to spend some more time working in more time, and then other months you're going to have more time at home. And it's going to be the same thing for years. Some years you're going to spend more time working, other years you're going to have more time at home. So I think it's kind of this fluid dynamic between both lives, but they're really integrated, right? Because it's really all the same life. And there's like this one meditation I like to do that describes like your person at work, like you at work and you at home, or you in your personal life. And you should really like picture them walking down a road holding hands, and they should really be integrated because it's two halves of a person. You don't want to cut yourself up into different people, if that makes any sense.
Makes total sense. And it kind of reminds me of our interview with Dr. Ciccanelli when he talked about work-life harmony. It's harmony, it's not balance.
Right, absolutely. Oh, he's the best.
Oh, he is the best. Yeah, absolutely. This is great. I love these your positive mindset, because as you said, I mean, I remember interviewing residents when we had our program in Colorado, and a prospective resident would come into an interview and say, "Oh yeah, I can't wait to go skiing every weekend," and we're like, "Not happening."
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like, why do you want to? Like, you should be wanting to be at the hospital all the time, learning every single little thing you can, because once you're done, that's it. You'll never have that experience again.
1,000 days of learning. That's what I used to tell the residents.
Yeah, that's good. I'm gonna steal that.
Joe, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I love this conversation because I absolutely am a big believer that balance does not exist in the sense of the term balance, but you nailed it on the head, Mary Ellen, that this idea of integration, so people have used work-life integration, work-life alignment, work-life harmony. This idea, if you are going into it with a mindset of I'm going to spend X amount of time at work and X amount of time at home, and somehow they're going to shake out with some kind of balance, you're going to feel disappointed that it's not working. Whereas if you can try to align the things that you fill your day with the things that bring you the most joy, and it's possible this is delayed joy, to your point, you don't have to always live right in the now. And again, I know maybe this isn't the most popular theme as everyone will feel, but I think there's a lot of really good um, discussion right now. Bill Perkins has a great book, Die with Zero. I think that was his book. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The idea is this idea of time buckets, that there are periods in your life where you're never going to get that period back or that phase back. So you talked about your son, like, I'm going to invest this time now with the hope and expectation of the dividends of that later. Because yes, there are different ways to look at it, and people can break it down however they want. There is no right way to do it, but realizing that he's only going to be at this phase of life now, figure out how to set your life up, design your life, because it is your life, in a way that supports that, whether that's private practice, whether that's hospital based, whether that's academic or any other career path. There is no one right answer. And I also loved in your story that you talked about flexibility and autonomy, which as a woman in this field, those things become really critical, especially as it starts to come to things like childbearing and family. And as now we have such a large portion of our applicants being female, I know these are a lot of their questions. How do you make it all work? And so you've been highlighted, you've won several awards and very appropriately so. There is no way we're definitely going to have to do a part two, Dr. Jensen, because there's no way we're going to get to all of the things that I wanted to talk to her about that she's been involved with. But one of those being top 30 inspiring women to look out for in 2022, top 10 women disruptors from Disrupt Magazine. That other one, by the way, was the New York City Journal, Practice Management, Rising Star Award, Podiatry Today, Women in Podiatry, celebrating the change makers. So I'd love to get your take, Maryellen, on advice that you would give a young woman starting this profession, or a potential student looking at podiatry as a career. What are some of the advice that you would give them about what it looks like to be successful?
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one thing that I always tell women that getting into our field is find a mentor. It's so important. And unfortunately, I never had a female mentor, but my mentor, Mark Solomon, has always been very extremely pro-female. And he, was always supporting me, like, personally, um, you know, career-wise, whatever have you. So I got really lucky. But I feel like it's hard and he was also a single dad. So I think he could relate to a lot of the struggles that, us as mothers have. But, I think I think it would be helpful to have a female mentor to guide you and tell you, like, hey, this is how I did it. Oh, like, you're scared to tell your employer you're pregnant. Okay, this is, what, I get that. This is what I did. So I think that's probably one of the most important things. And like right now, I mentor like a bunch of younger women, and they're all awesome. They, like, kick ass. I don't know if I could say that on here, but just awesome, students and residents and people. And it's just my way of giving back because I never had that. So I think number one, I think you got to find that. And I think that the other thing is, um, a lot of us spend so much time and effort just trying to be better. You know, as a woman, you have to be, you know, we have to be better than men to be recognized. And we're not very good at saying, you know, advertising ourselves or saying, you know what, I did this awesome surgery, or like, I'm really good at this. And I think we have to be more vocal about our strengths and our skills, and getting out there and letting everyone know. And the other part of that is, you know, we don't have to try so hard to get approval from people. The number one thing you want is approval from yourself. And I one of the things I wish I told myself was that, you know, and if I understood it, like, you know, when I first got out, I was always just like trying to be the best, trying to do so much, and, you know, volunteering for all these things. And I love them all, don't get me wrong, but it's the pressure I put on myself to do that, to show everyone like I'm important, I'm good. But that's, you're never going to get that from external validation, no matter what you do and no matter what awards you get, it doesn't matter. You have to give it to yourself. So I think that's, as women, we try to get that external validation, but it's just really never going to come until you get it from yourself.
Yeah, I could definitely validate that exact same statement. And I wish I would have given myself that permission so much sooner than I finally just accepted what I want my life to look like, not what I think my life should look like. And as you're checking everyone else's boxes and you're just getting more and more miserable, or at least, again, I will only use I language here, but when I was trying to live up to what I thought other people's expectations of me was the most miserable. And it didn't matter how much money I was making, I was unhappy and I was ready to just leave. And that's where that idea of integration or alignment, I think, is so powerful. Is, you know, people will say things like, oh, there's, no amount of money will ever make you happy, and like all the cliches, but they're cliches for a reason. You can be incredibly successful in podiatry, but to really build a life that you love, you can also do that in podiatry. And that's the stuff that I think is so exciting and so many different opportunities. I love that you highlighted you didn't say this, but I'm going to highlight it for you, that you're a mentor to pre-health students. So you're doing feet on the street stuff before feet on the street even happened. So with your alma mater, St. Joseph's University, there's a Connects program. Can you talk a little bit about your work with the pre-health students?
Sure, yeah. So they have this kind of portal that students can log on, and they list, like, I'm listed as a mentor or someone they can ask questions to. So they can set up like a Zoom meeting with me and just ask me about podiatry, or they can ask me like, oh, can I shadow your office, or your office is a little far from me? Do you have someone I can shadow in Philadelphia area? So I've been doing that for years now. I don't remember when the program started, but I pretty much signed up right away. And then the physiology department invites physicians back to do guest lecturing. And I've been going back doing the guest lecture for at least like 3 or 4 years since COVID. And I talk about, diabetes and neuropathy, but you better believe I go into Charcot reconstruction, and I show the external fixation and all the cool stuff that we do. And, there's been a lot of students that I was able to get interested in podiatry from that lecture. And I still go and do it every year. And I love it. It's super fun. And even one of the students at St. Joe's right now, like, he wants to go to podiatry school, and I've been talking with him a lot and kind of helping him along. So it's very rewarding, and that's how I found out about podiatry. My school, I went to Temple. They came to my undergrad and they did a presentation during lunch one day, and I was like, wow, this sounds like awesome. Like, I can specialize right away. I can do surgery. There's sports medicine involved, like, sign me up. So I think getting the awareness out to the college age students is super important.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to jump in just a second. Were you a force of nature like in high school too, Maryellen? I mean, I'm looking at nature versus nurture kind of concepts here. I have a sense that you were.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I was in marching band and I played field hockey. So I would go after school, play field hockey from like 2:30 to 5:30. I'd have like a little break to do homework and eat dinner. Like I would eat it in the hallway at school, and then I would do marching band from like 6 to 9 every night. So it was crazy. I made my life like busy, 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 which was good because busy kept me happy. And I was voted class clown in high school. So that's always an accolade. I don't put that on my CV anymore, but
I didn't see that. I didn't see that.
but yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. I think high school was kind of when I came out of my shell in that way.
So speaking of coming out of your shell, Joe, may I just take it just a slightly different direction? Um, I was thinking maybe we'd save all the AO North America, all the ACFAS stuff for the next episode, if that's okay. Because I wanted to ask you about the ACFAS On Demand podcast because I think we need to have a shout out to them. They've got hundreds of episodes, and you've been a moderator, you've been a participant on some of the episodes. Can you talk about the podcast in general and
Sure.
what you've learned from it or what your experience has been? I'm not shocked at all that you host it once in a while.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so the On Demand podcast is a great resource for students, residents, attendings, anyone really. And we talk about scientific stuff. Like sometimes we talk about our protocols post-operatively. Sometimes we talk about contracts. I have a really good contracts podcast that I recorded with them. We've done a lot of women-centered focus ones. Those are usually one of the most popular. Like people I don't know will like message me on Instagram and say, thanks for doing this podcast. So it's super rewarding. It's really fun to listen to. I've listened to a lot of them, or sometimes like on my way to work, I'll listen to one just to get in the mood for, showing up and doing foot and ankle surgery. It's a really great free resource that you guys can take advantage of. Check it out. There's a lot of different topics on there. There's, what kind of jobs are out there. I've done a lot of big array. One of the most popular ones was also a bunion episode where me and Dr. Lisa Levick, we kind of pitted like MIS bunion specialist versus lapidus bunion specialist, and they kind of went head to head. So that was super fun. Yeah, so check it out if you haven't, for sure.
I saw recently that there's like a Nielsen ratings for podcasts, and the ACFAS On Demand podcast is in the top 2% of all podcasts in the world for
Wow.
popularity. So hats
Wow,
off to
I didn't know that.
ACFAS. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep, absolutely. So hats off to ACFAS. I mean, they've got their hands in so many different things. I'm impressed that they can come out with a episode every couple of weeks.
It's hard. We sit in meeting rooms for hours trying to, craft new ideas, and we workshop a lot of ideas together as a group.
Absolutely. Anyways, thank you for doing that for the profession.
Well, and to piggyback off that, they're also incredibly efficient in terms of like they'll record a whole bunch in like a stream during the ASC because they can get a lot of people together. But I really appreciate how conversational they are, but there's still so much expertise that's involved that, I mean, again, you can listen to 30, 40 minutes, and that was sometimes more impactful than going and sitting in a lecture all day because you can really hear from, top people in the field what their experience is, and they're very honest and open, but it's enjoyable to listen. So I'll validate your shout out, Jeff, to the On Demand podcast. They're fun to listen to, and the students actually really enjoy them as well. They'll come to me with questions like, "Oh, I was listening to this podcast."
Oh, that's good to know.
Well, I like them because they're short and sweet, 15, 20 minutes. And I say that here, our average podcast is 45 minutes because we're trying to figure out what makes Maryellen tick.
Right, right. This is more like really, really like an in-depth interview.
Well, you know what? What we could do is we could get into some of the really fun stuff where we ask you a bunch of quick questions and you just kind of reflex answer.
Sure, that sounds fun.
All right, and then what we'll do is we'll transition into episode 2 where we can talk more ACFAS and what you've done to give back to the profession, because it's kind of like not only are we talking about business of a practice, but we're talking about treating patients and the business and the volunteer efforts. There's no shortage of material here, Maryellen.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, so where's your favorite vacation destination?
Oh my God, really? I don't know. I love traveling. That's like in my top 5 favorite things to do. I think Ireland's my favorite place I've ever been to.
Right on. All right.
Hmm.
Some Irish blood.
Yeah.
My wife and I went there. Her maiden name, her name is Moynihan, so she's definitely Irish.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it was otherworldly.
Absolutely. My wife, we were there for like a week. I'm looking forward to going back. Joe.
All right. You had mentioned marching band. What instrument did you play?
I started with flute and it wasn't loud enough, so I changed to drums.
I was going to say percussion or low brass was my were my two. So I was low brass, which is probably not a shock to you either.
Not a
But
shock.
high five to the marching band.
Woo!
Joe, were you in the marching band?
I was, yeah, sousaphone.
I'm not sure I know
Because
what
I'm
it
not big
is.
enough already. I don't know. I needed something really loud and obnoxious.
Very good. Well, so when you're in the operating room, what music do you listen to, Mary Ellen?
So this is so funny. I don't like don't care. I'm like put on whatever. Like my partner, they know like when he comes in, they have Drake playing already for him when he goes in, and they always be like, oh, like I don't need music. I don't know what it is. I don't know. It's so weird. I know it's very strange. But like if they're like ask me, I'll usually ask for 90s alternative because everyone usually will get into a sing along with that. Some wallflowers.
There you
Okay.
go.
All right.
Now, how about when you're not in the OR, when you're just hanging out on the weekend, cruising around in your car or something?
Yeah. Yeah. I love country and EDM. And I'm in denial of this, but my Spotify wrap up always rubs it in my face. I guess pop, which is embarrassing.
Love it. I had this weird experience the other day. I hesitate to even bring it, and this is potentially editable here. Um, so I was watching a video of Stained. They have a song called "It's Been a While." Remember?
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
And in that video, the guy's smoking a cigarette, and there's smoke everywhere. I swear to God, I could smell smoke in my nose when I was watching the video.
Uh,
That's a thing. I looked it up on Google.
Yeah.
That's somatosensory thing or something.
I was just gonna say, it probably is a fancy brain name for that.
Yeah, there is. I can't remember it though.
Yeah.
It is that age thing.
Yeah, and there's one where people can like taste color and like yeah, they definitely like the circuits
That's
something
exactly
changes
right.
and yeah.
Anyways, this happened recently, and I was so fascinated. I'm like, oh my God, I smell the smoke in the screen. Anyways, I may edit that. I may not. We'll see.
I think you should keep it. It's a fun
Yeah,
fact.
keep it
All right.
in.
All right. How about what kind of movies you like?
Uh, I like gangster movies. I grew up with
Ooh.
2 brothers and only one TV. So we did everything democratically. So I got outvoted all the time. So as a result, I'm into like a lot of, like I love The Departed.
Oh,
Um,
such a good film.
yeah, so good. Things like that. But yeah, I mean, I like a lot like comedy stuff like that. One of my favorite movies is The Wrong Missy. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Give it a whirl. Whatever funny bone that hits on me it's perfect. It's like perfectly my humor. It's a good one.
Fantastic. All right, I've got one. What is something from your childhood that you did that you loved doing when and you said you have brothers, so this might be really fun, but now you no longer do?
Oh boy, that's a hard one. I don't know. Play with Barbies, I guess. I don't know. That was
Okay. Yeah,
I played
toys.
with Barbies. Yeah, toys.
I would not have put you as a Barbie girl, so you liked
Oh,
Barbies as a kid.
I played Barbies way too late. Like I played Barbies like 6th grade, and it got to the point where I had to hide it from my friends because it wasn't cool anymore. I'm like, don't look over there. It's
Oh.
not a dream house or anything.
That's my brothers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, that's old. We're gonna sell that in that garage sale next week. Don't pay attention to that. But yeah, I love Barbie
Oh,
so much.
I love that.
So it's Saturday night. You're going out for a great dinner. What kind of food are you having?
Steak and potatoes, baby. I'm a steak and potatoes girl.
I love
Favorite
it.
beverage?
Diet Coke.
Okay.
Did you ever see oh gosh, I'm trying to think of the Britney Spears when she was talking about Pepsi. They said, "Do you like Pepsi?" I love Pepsi. They said, "Diet Pepsi or real Pepsi?" She says, "Pepsi's Pepsi." It's like a great short on video. Anyway, Um, Maryellen, we're really looking forward to the second episode. You were right. We got going on this discussion, and it's amazing how fast 40 minutes goes by. Are you up for doing a round two with us?
Absolutely. This was super fun.
All right,
Yeah,
sounds good.
I have to drop just a couple teasers because we didn't get to talk about her director of education for the American College of Foot and Ankle Surgeons, which is a huge leadership position. She's the clinical research director for multiple residency programs, which again, we could have a whole episode just on her involvement with resident teaching and resident research. And then served on the chair served as the chair for the Board of Podiatry. I would love to get some more information about the New Jersey Doctor Patient Alliance. So many fun things. And then also Boards Blast, which we'll have like a whole nother one. Maybe we can get the whole team
Yeah,
together.
gotta talk about
Um,
board class.
yeah, so some fun teasers to drop for the audience for future episodes with Dr. Maryellen Brucato.
All right, sounds great. And Maryellen, we're going to send you a Dean's Chat cup so that
Oh
you
my
can
gosh. Thank you.
stay caffeinated. I don't know if that's a thing for you.
Oh yeah, I love coffee.
All right, sounds good.
Cool. Thank you guys so much. This was
Yeah.
awesome.
It was fun. Thank you for joining us for part one. To all of our listeners out there, whether you're on Spotify or Apple, we'd love for you to give us a 5-star rating and maybe even leave a comment. And if you're watching on YouTube, by all means, become a subscriber. And until next week and our next episode, we'll continue to bring you leaders in the profession like Maryellen Brucato. Thank you so much for joining us. Cheers.
Cheers.